The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on October 26, 2021.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpa, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and it is a gorgeous morning here today in Maui. We are going to cover on the show national issues, including penalty increases by OSHA for workplace safety violations, the U.S. Chamber's position on vaccine mandates, and information on extending government funding and emergency assistance. We're going to talk with MEO and learn about many programs, including their agricultural micro-grant program, mortgage and rental assistance, and highlights of their 48th annual senior fair. And we're going to speak with one of our local manufacturers who produces a skin and body care product line, and she's from the North Shore of Maui. But first, we're going to kick it off with our friend and great contact and partner in looking at business issues, and that is Jennings Imel. He is the Executive Director of the Western Regional Office of Congressional and Public Affairs Division of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Good morning and welcome back to the show, Jennings. How are you?
Good morning, Pam. I'm great. Thanks for having me, as always. Glad to be on.
We're so glad to have you. Now, before joining the Chamber in 2013, you worked in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Association of Former Members of Congress and at the public affairs firm of Mercury Clark and Weinstock. And you also have a master's degree in international affairs from the George Washington University and a bachelor's degree in political science and German from the University of California, Riverside. We are so glad to have your expertise sharing these issues with us. And you currently reside, we were just talking about the weather in California, so it's in the low 70s, but, we're glad that you're doing okay there and it's not so rainy today.
Right. Well, yeah, it was nice to have rain. First time in several months that we've had any kind of rainfall, so that was a good thing. But everything's going well over here. Like I said, not quite as nice as in Maui, but we'll take it.
And I hear you have a new baby.
Yep, I do. Yeah, just turned 4 weeks, so it's baby number 3. So we've got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-week-old.
Wow.
So things have been a little busy out here.
I would say. Well, congratulations. And thank you for
Thanks,
coming
Pam.
on the show early this morning. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with OSHA. We've been seeing reports here, and the industries have been wondering what is driving these extreme penalty increases for, OSHA safety violations. And of course, we're talking about violations. So businesses understand, we need to operate correctly. We need to operate for the health and safety of, all of our employees and protect the business as well. But what is driving this, and what do you think about the level of increases that they're proposing at this time?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to just being another source of revenue to pay for the massive budget reconciliation bill that's currently being discussed on Capitol Hill right now. I'm sure that a lot of you have been kind of following those negotiations between the Biden administration and Democrats in the House and Senate, trying to come up with a roughly $1.75, $2 trillion package or so with a lot of things in it. And of course, I'm happy to talk more about that later. But one of the revenue sources would be to increase fines or penalties, OSHA penalties, on employers that violate those OSHA rules and standards. And obviously this is a big deal. It's not something that's in place yet, but it is certainly part of the discussions. And unfortunately, it looks like this is one of those the proposals that's in the reconciliation bill that is likely to survive. Of course, we haven't seen final text or language on this bill. There hasn't been a final agreement yet, but it looks like these extreme increases in OSHA penalties will survive. And just to give your listeners a sense of what kind of increases we're talking about minimum penalties going from the current rate of $9,600 right around per violation to $50,000. That's a 512% increase. Serious violations, the maximum penalty would go from $13,700 to $70,000. For willful and repeated violations, the maximum penalty would go from $137,000 to $700,000. I mean, these are just massive, dramatic increases in penalties. And obviously, we understand that if there's a violation that takes place in the workplace, that the employer should pay. That that there should be an opportunity for the employer to learn from that mistake and move forward. But that's not what these penalties do. These are not slaps on the wrist. These are penalties that are great enough to quite frankly put businesses out of business. And that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help the employer, and it certainly doesn't help the employees.
Absolutely not. And that's exactly what I was thinking. And so then that led me to ask, is there any size level protection, or it's across the board, regardless of business size, this is the penalties that are being faced? Right.
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be across the board. So this is obviously something that we're taking very seriously, and it's one of the many proposals in this bill that's currently being discussed that we vehemently oppose.
Yeah, this is a huge concern for us, and especially like you said, this can put businesses out of business, and for smaller businesses, first of all, we want everybody to protect their workers and have safe working conditions. But we understand things happen, or people need to learn things that need to be put in place. And in the past, the fines were severe. I mean, they were significant. They were a clear, this is the stick, and you need to get it together very quickly. But now we've gone to a massive club, and you could easily knock a lot of smaller, mid-sized businesses completely out of business with one violation. Of course, I think the point is to make sure that the penalties are stiff so that there is only one violation and it doesn't, continue. But at this level, there's a lot of things going on here that could really be devastating to businesses across the country.
Right. Absolutely. And it's also important to note, too, there's a wrinkle here in that, we've got a vaccine mandate, and I know that we're going to talk about that as well, but a vaccine mandate is going to be coming down the pike here shortly from OSHA. And any kind of violation of that vaccine mandate would be considered a serious violation. And so an employer, even though this is a brand new mandate that they're going to have very limited amount of time to be able to figure out and to comply with, a violation of that mandate would result in a $70,000 penalty. That's per violation. So that just kind of goes to that point and is an example of how this could really damage employers and ultimately, of course, hurt employees at the end of the day.
This is an issue that we feel we really need to start educating businesses on. And again, as you say, if they're looking at the vaccine mandate as a serious violation, and of course, if you have a practice that you're doing that's wrong and you have 100 employees, then you've probably done it times 100. Are they looking at it that way per person, or are they looking at it per incident?
So it's per violation. We'll see exactly, and maybe I imagine we'll get some more information once the final rule is available, the emergency temporary standard from OSHA. But as of right now, this would be it's a per violation penalty. So we'll see kind of how that's interpreted ultimately, if it's going to be per employee or kind of a one-time deal. But either way, it's obviously this is a serious amount of money we're talking about. Right.
Yeah. It really is. So thank you, Jennings, for that. It's not great news, of course, but it's important for us to all know, and it's important for businesses to understand this is happening and to make sure that they're very clear on OSHA's rules and regulations and laws. So we'll be doing a lot of education on this. You led right into that. Let's talk about these vaccine mandates, the Chamber's position, and where you see these going as they're rolling out.
Well, as I said, OSHA is really kind of in the final stages here of wrapping this up. We're expecting the emergency temporary standard to be released into the Federal Register probably at the earliest at the end of this week, or likely sometime next week. This goes back to the kind of a Biden executive order from a couple of months ago, back I think in early September. When he directed the Department of Labor and OSHA to do this. We at the U.S. Chamber didn't take a position of support or oppose, and we're still not taking a support or oppose position. It's something that we're monitoring, but I will say that we've been working with our member companies throughout and making sure that we are kind of getting them the information they need to be able to prepare, to comply, any kind of additional information and resources, we are getting that to our member companies, and then also at the same time expressing our concerns, though, to OSHA. And we've been doing that throughout the last 2 months, especially one of the biggest concerns that we hear about. Of course, we always have concerns whenever we're talking about mandates on business, but one of the big ones has to do with the worker shortage and what is the effect of the vaccine mandate going to be on worker shortage.
Right.
The fact that we're going to have employers that potentially lose employees as a result of having this mandate in place, that just kind of exacerbates really the workforce crisis we're already seeing. It's going to make our supply chain problems that much more acute. And so we've been kind of expressing those concerns and, of course, how employers go about, paying for these things. I mean, they've got to pay, obviously, as well for their employees to go take time off and get vaccinated. And if they have any adverse reactions to the vaccine, they've got to pay for that time off as well. So we've been expressing our concerns and the concerns of the business community directly to OSHA on these issues, and hopefully they will be addressed when we see the final rule come out.
Well, I hope so too. And it's been an interesting thing here. I mean, we've had some pushback. We have many businesses who have said, the vaccine mandates in some cases help and sort of level the playing field, and in other cases we're hearing pushback. And of course, now we're seeing bigger demonstrations across the nation. We're still in the thick of this yet. And have a long way to go. And is the timing here related to as we get toward the colder weather and concerns that we could be seeing an increased COVID or Delta or new variant?
Right. Yeah, I mean that's possible. I think that one of our biggest concerns with the timing here is that we're right before the holidays.
Yeah.
And it's important to keep in mind this is an emergency temporary standard. This is not something that takes a long time to go through the process. In other words, businesses are not going to have a long time to figure out how to comply with this.
Yeah.
It's going to go into effect very quickly, probably within a matter of weeks. If we look at the previous ETS that came out from OSHA back in June that dealt with kind of the healthcare industry,
right.
We saw a final rule come out June 17th and implementation June 21st. So it's going to be very quick, and businesses are going to have to figure out how to comply with this. And right before the holidays, when we're already expecting supply shortages,
exactly.
Not having enough goods in inventories and on shelves, this could be another problem that just kind of exacerbates those issues we're seeing.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, the urgency of this right now with everything that's going on. Right. I'm trying to figure out what is the thinking on making such an urgent thing. And with all things we keep saying, every time there's new mandates, we continue to see the challenges where government's working on it. We're waiting to hear snippets, on how they're going to execute it and what it's actually going to mean. And then, boom, they release it, and the time frame to gear up is so short. The windows have been, we still haven't learned that businesses need time to gear up and put these things in place. They just think it can happen very quickly and overnight and don't realize some of the interconnections. So thank you for sharing that with us, Jennings, because it's a big issue, and we've got to get people prepped and ready to go on that. And that kind of ties into, where we go. We've got this reconciliation bill that we're trying to get moving forward, and there's some good things in there. There's some challenging things in there. People have been wondering what's happening with extended funding and additional emergency assistance. So can you talk a little bit about that and where you see that going?
Sure. Well, that's been dominating the whole conversation in D.C. This reconciliation bill and kind of coming to an agreement, particularly among Democrats. You've got the moderate Democrats. Obviously everybody's been looking at Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin. Where are they going to be on this? Where is the Progressive Caucus on this? And can they come to an agreement on the reconciliation package? And really that kind of would theoretically pave the way for doing an infrastructure bill. And that's kind of the intention right now in Washington, D.C. That's where Democrats are going. That's what they're aiming to do, is to come up with an agreement on the reconciliation bill. Come up with a top-line figure right around $1.75 trillion. Broad agreement on some of the issues that are going to be included there, so that they can get to an infrastructure bill vote sometime this week. That's the intention anyway. Is to not saying that's entirely realistic, but that's what they want to do, and especially in advance of President Biden's trip to Scotland to talk about climate issues. They want to have a win on the board. I think that's a kind of an important thing that Democrats are looking at right now. But I think that, quite frankly, on the reconciliation bill, there's just a lot that needs to be done here. Moderates and the progressives are very far apart. There are a number of kind of issues that are sticking out. I will say, from the U.S. Chamber's perspective, we strongly support the infrastructure bill, as I know we've talked about last time.
Yes.
That's the $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill in physical infrastructure. We support that. The reconciliation package, which is the Build Back Better, human infrastructure, social infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, we oppose that bill. Largely because there's so much in this bill. I mean, literally dozens and dozens of provisions, including the OSHA violations, of course.
Right.
A lot of provisions that typically wouldn't be able to pass, that under normal circumstances haven't passed in the last 20 years. They're trying to pile this into one massive partisan bill, and we don't think that's the right way to legislate. And also, there are some very serious concerns on the substance as well. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk of tax increases on business. Looks like there's the talk on the corporate tax increase, and that side is kind of going away, thanks mostly to Senator Sinema's opposition to that. But there are a lot of other proposals that are out there. Still, having a minimum tax on companies that are doing business abroad. That's something that no other country does, but we're looking at making that more difficult now for American companies that are doing business abroad, increasing their taxes. There's talk of doing taxes on unrealized gains, kind of like a wealth tax as well. Of course, we all know the OSHA violation issue. There's the IRS reporting requirement issue that's kind of gained a lot of attention. There's a lot of things in here that are very disconcerting to the business community, and so we oppose the reconciliation bill. Hopefully that doesn't go anywhere. But at the end of the day, we also want to see that bipartisan infrastructure package ultimately get a vote on the House floor and pass. So. That's where we're at the U.S. Chamber, but a very difficult environment for sure in Washington, D.C., especially for Democrats as they try to kind of navigate both of those kind of constituencies within their caucus, the moderate folks and then the progressive caucus. So we'll see what happens, but this week I think will be a pretty telling week.
It's gonna be a very exciting week for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! You watch the news every day, and you just keep wondering where it's going to land, and
right.
And again, the news story of the president wanting to get it before he goes to the climate summit. So,
right.
And yet, once again, this year, we had to rush to continue our spending. And people in business, just every time this happens, are wondering, why are our elected officials constantly getting to the point where we always need emergency action to continue operating?
Right.
And it's so frustrating, and many people just are always amazed at how that works. It could never work in our business, so why is it happening in our government?
Yep. Pushing against deadlines. We've got an October 31st deadline for surface transportation. That's going to be, one of the drivers of getting an infrastructure vote this week, or, there might be a short-term extension. We'll see. And I will say, too, to your point on federal assistance for small business, there are some things in the reconciliation bill. And granted, with a bill of this size, there are going to be some things we like, some things we oppose.
Right.
There are some things there, but I will say that as far as some of the other programs, from dating back to the pandemic, not as much discussion on extending some of those things, like the tax credits for paid sick and family leave, for example, that were COVID related. I know that's come up a lot. The restaurant revitalization fund issue, is there going to be more money for that?
Right.
Not hearing a whole lot on that front, but of course, as always, we'll continue to keep you posted, and we're going to be monitoring that very closely.
Well, you certainly have your hands full, and we deeply appreciate all of the work that you and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce are doing on these fronts, continuing to work to improve the infrastructure situation, to continue to educate Congress on what the impacts are, not only in the business sector, but in the communities and every different region, sharing what the pulse of business is in these regions, and again, wanting to look at ways that we continue to keep businesses alive. We're seeing so many problems with worker shortages already, and as we see federal assistance dwindle in terms of the unemployment plus up, where are people going? You know, we keep hearing about so many wanting to go to job changes, but where are these new careers coming from? Where are those new jobs coming from? And we need to do things to keep our workers in place, particularly, you know, as we move forward. We're getting into the holiday season. There's so many challenges on the horizon, and we've got to start finding ways to come together, have better discussions, and unite, and actually stop talking about things, and get things done.
Right.
So we appreciate.
Yep, you're exactly right. Yeah, the worker shortage, and I'll maybe even end with this. I mean, the worker shortage and inflation concerns, two of the biggest issues that come up in our kind of day-to-day conversations with businesses and with chambers. You look at the state of Hawaii, right? Since February of 2020, Hawaii's lost 85,000 workers.
Yeah.
It's a 13% decrease, but the unemployment rate's right around 4%. So folks that want to work are largely employed, but, you know, they're just, workers are gone. And it's not just in Hawaii, it's in virtually every state in the union. It's a massive, massive problem. We have 2.7 million more job openings than we have unemployed people looking for work right now. So big problem, the inflation issue, of course, and that gets to another, you know, kind of reason why we have concern with the huge, $2 trillion spending packages. You know, how much does that supercharge inflationary pressures that we're already seeing on the ground? So those are kind of the two things that we're hearing the most about, and absolutely it's going to take the business community, and thank you to you, Pam, and the Maui Chamber for being such strong advocates on behalf of your businesses on Maui, and it's going to take our constant engagement with our elected officials to address these problems.
Well, Jennings, thank you so much. Thank you for all of this great information and for, being on the front lines on these issues and putting up a good fight. And again, I hate to say the word fight, but, really sharing and advocating and, finding ways to continue the dialogue and open that up so that we can find ways to come together. We appreciate all that you're doing.
No, thank you, Pam. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for having me, as always.
You bet. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you. Aloha. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back. If you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce and sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. It is now my pleasure to welcome a good friend, Debbie Cabebe, Chief Executive Officer of Maui Economic Opportunity. Debbie joined MEO in 2000 as the organization's Chief Human Resources Officer. In 2011, she was promoted to Chief Operating Officer and was promoted to Chief Executive Officer in 2017. She is the past president of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association and a current member at large. She is involved and volunteers her time in numerous organizations, and Debbie is a nationally certified senior professional in human resources. Also a certified results-oriented management and accountability trainer, which many people know. And Debbie was recognized by Pacific Business News as a 2019 Woman Who Means Business honoree and the Nonprofit Executive Director of the Year. Debbie, so glad to have you with us this morning.
Aloha, good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Aloha, how are you?
I am well. Busy.
Yes, you are, and I hear you. We've got the same issue. It's just a really wild time, but you have so many exciting programs. Let's talk about the $1.5 million Maui County funded program for operating farms.
Yeah, it's so exciting. We're very appreciative of the council for setting aside another $1.5 million to serve the farmers. So, the last fiscal year we had $2 million, and we served 105 farmers with purchasing farm equipment, supporting farm infrastructure, purchasing inventory supplies, which is fencing, irrigation, seed, fertilizer, things like that. We also help them purchase storage equipment and help with marketing, packaging, and updating websites and technology. So it was overwhelming. We had 212 applications. So some of them will be considered during this round. We've been reaching out to those individuals that applied last year, and if they're still interested, we'll update their application. So the new application period runs until December 14th, and it's not a first-come, first-served basis. It's weighted based on a set of criteria that was actually established by Council Vice Chair Keani Rollins Fernandez and the Council. So we're moving along. Applications are coming in, and I think it's great because it's grants. It's money that's given to them. They don't have to pay it back. But it helps build their infrastructure, expand their business, creates jobs, and, of course, improves the economy. Absolutely. And the grants are up to $25,000, right? That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, this is a time, and every time you and I sit in these meetings, right, we always talk about our economy, our diversification, and we always say, ag is one of our long-standing historical economic engines. We need and want ag to survive for our sustainability, and so it's great that this money is available to help these local farms, continue on, expand, and really contribute to our community and our sustainability. So we want everybody to take advantage of these. How can people learn more and take advantage of this?
They can visit our website at www.meoinc.org, so www.meoinc.org, and click on Programs and Business Development Center, and it's right there, and it tells you all the information. They can apply online, or they can call us and request a paper application. There's a lot of ways. So you can also call MEO at 249-2990 and ask for Business Development Center, and one of our staff will be happy to help you.
That's awesome. And I believe there's a preference for Native Hawaiian owned and women.
Yes.
Owned farms. Okay, so they've been given some priority. So for folks who qualify for that, definitely want to take a look. But also applications are also open for other farmers who qualify and meet the criteria. So we want to encourage everybody. This funding's available now, and you've got till, I think you said December 14th. Is that correct? Awesome. Well, you're also, as if that doesn't keep you busy enough, and of course, if you know MEO, their hands are in so many programs to help throughout Maui County. Another program that you're continuing is help with the mortgage and rental assistance that people still need. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how people qualify for that?
Yes, we have 3 rental assistance programs that we're managing right now. So one is in partnership with Catholic Charities, and it's the Maui Emergency Rental Assistance. So it includes payment for back rent and utility assistance. It's for individuals at 80% of the area median income. They have to have lost income due to COVID, and we can provide up to 12 months of assistance. The only downside to that is if they received any other federal assistance earlier in the pandemic, they cannot qualify, and that's been kind of a deterrent for some people. If you're not sure if you qualify, you can contact us at, again, 249-2990, ask for the housing specialist, and they can look you up in the system. There's a statewide system now that we're sharing with Catholic Charities, and we're able to look up and see if people had assistance previously. Then we also have another program that is federally funded. It's a community development block grant funds, and that goes from the federal government to the county, and then the county grants it out to Family Life Center at MEO, and that is to pay up to 6 months of assistance. But what's really wonderful about that is it can help with with mortgage.
Great.
Which is the only program that will help with mortgage. It can pay rent too, but it also will pay for mortgage. But again, you could not have received any federal assistance in the past year. And you can get $2,500 a month for up to 6 months of mortgage assistance and $1,500 a month for rental assistance. And it has to be that your income was lost or affected due to COVID. So it could be just that there was a decrease in income. It doesn't have to be that you didn't have any income. And then the final program is something that we run on a regular basis, and it's the County of Maui Rental Assistance Program, or they call it RAP, and that can help up to 6 months of assistance. It also includes security and utility deposits and rental subsidies, and that one is a rolling year. So if you received county rental assistance in the past 11 months, you wouldn't qualify. But once you hit that 13th month, if you need assistance again, you can reapply. And you can visit our website at www.meoinc.org, and it will tell you all the required documentation. You can actually apply online at that website. And again, if you don't have a computer, you're not computer savvy, you can call 249-2990, ask for a housing specialist, and they can get you a paper application.
You know, that's so awesome. And I love that, again, your programs are so well-rounded. You meet people where they're at. So if you can get online, you can apply online. If you need some additional help or don't have access to a computer, they've got a paper application and will help you with that. And your team is awesome. They're always looking to, whenever there's a sort of something that sort of stops and holds up the progress, your team is amazing at finding a way around it and just continuing to push through. And you guys do an excellent job at that.
Yeah, and we're doing some community outreach as well. So they'll be at the Kihei Community Center, the housing team, on November the 8th and December 20th from 8 to 12. And they'll be in Lahaina on December 8th as well.
Awesome.
So, there's also opportunities for, people in those areas that maybe it's a little harder for them to travel and they don't have access. And then, of course, we do have staff in Hana and Molokai and Lanai that are always available to help those folks as well.
Yeah, that is tremendous. Awesome. And that brings me to another fun fact for everybody who doesn't know, that MEO just, actually, how old is MEO? I just realized you celebrated your 48th annual senior fair, but how old is MEO?
We were incorporated in 1965.
The year I was born. How awesome is that?
It's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride. Well, you folks have always had amazing programs for seniors and just celebrated the 48th annual senior fair. I'd love, and I'm sure the community would love to hear about some of the highlights of the fair and how seniors are doing, how they're, are they going virtual, and how are they faring during this COVID times?
Well, we do a lot of assistance programs, so producing something like the senior fair is fun.
Yes.
It's work, but it's a lot of fun because it's that feel-good kind of a thing. So normally we produce the fair for the County of Maui Office on Aging, and we host it at the War Memorial Gymnasium. But, of course, the last 2 years we had to go virtual.
Right.
And last year we were like, I don't know how this is going to work. But it came off pretty well. So when things were kind of tight again this year, we said, okay, we're going to roll it out virtually. So we invited people to participate, vendors that have resources that would be valuable to seniors, and they presented 60-second commercials or infomercials, and pre-recorded them and sent it to us. And then we were very fortunate to connect with Naleo Pime Mehana, and they provided us with 3 videos with authorization to use them during the fair. And then we also contacted a local group, Kinda Country, and they provided 3 pre-recorded videos. We had Kathy Collins, who's just a fabulous MC, hosting the event, and she keeps things rolling and brings in her own unique personality and a little humor into the mix. We had remarks from our legislators. We had over 400 participants, either on Zoom or Facebook Live or on Akaku Live, and it's being you can watch the recorded version on Facebook, on an MEO website, or on Akaku. I think they play it periodically. We had about over 70 prizes that were given out, all donated by people that participated. A lot of our legislators donated, and Councilmember Yukile Sugimura donated a color television, and then that was delivered to the winner. And Maui Office on Aging, they gave these robotic furry friends, cats and dogs. They are so cool. I bought one for my mom.
Oh, I haven't seen them yet.
Doing well near the end of her life, and she absolutely loved it. So anyway, it was fun, and those prizes have been mailed out. Furry friends are being delivered by Office on Aging, and Council Member Sugimura delivered her TV the same day. So it was a great event.
Well, I'm so glad to hear it. You know, we've been talking on some other programs statewide through the Broadband Hui, and there's going to be more training coming to Maui soon. They're looking at November, and we're excited to be helping with that. But, you know, some of the seniors who don't have computers or maybe are not digital literate yet, we've been hearing that they're feeling a little disconnected during these times, and so we're excited that you've been getting people on Zoom and gearing up for this, and they had a great way to connect and have fun, and we want to let people know, for seniors who don't have maybe a computer yet or want some digital literacy training, there's new things coming about in just next month, actually. Very exciting to hear that there's going to be some literacy programs. And then they can participate in more of these things that MEO is doing.
And our planning and coordinating council staff, Zilpa Kaimiola, Flor Anduran, and Lorna, they actually reach out to the seniors and been helping them learn how to get online and things like that. So it's growing. I've seen tremendous growth within the senior community in terms of their ability to navigate the system. But yeah, I think the broadband will be a huge benefit. And then, you know, there can't be enough said about Akaku Public Television.
Absolutely.
For providing access. So if people have internet, that's a way for them to at least, I mean, they can't talk, of course, through Akaku, but at least they can see what's going on and be a part of it.
Yeah, we are very blessed to have Akaku here, and what a treasure they are in our community, and continue to let people know about so many of the activities going on in our community. And
definitely.
Really excited about that. Well, you guys, again, there's so many things that you've got your hands in and are working on, and of course, we had the pleasure of partnering with you on the Imipono project, and you did such a great job with the contest, and so many amazing young people doing great things. It's fun. and we're just now, through the chamber, we've got a mentorship program, and we're starting to get some signups this year. We're from participants who engaged in this year's contest. So things are rolling, and there's so many great things that can be done. So much of what we hear in the news is all the challenges, but it's nice to hear of some of the fun and amazing solutions that are coming forward to unite our community.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have been very resilient.
Absolutely. They have been. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for participating in our show today. It's great to have you on, and we want to say big mahalo for all that you do in our community, to you and the whole MEO team. You guys are tremendous, and we treasure you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to you, Pam, and to the Chamber. You take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Aloha.
Aloha.
So I wanted to share a little bit. We were talking briefly about this digital literacy program, and paired with the digital literacy program, through the Broadband Hui, there's a program to actually donate equipment to those who need it, who don't have access. So for any of you who might have old computers, laptops, iPads, or other technology that you're not using, the state has a program through the Broadband Hui to take that donated equipment, refurbish it. Basically, if there was anything on there, they wipe it clean. They've got a contractor who does this, and they just wipe it clean, and maybe they upgrade the RAM or do what they need to do so that the equipment is ready for today's latest technology and broadband. And so those can be shared with people in classes throughout Maui County. The Maui Chamber is helping with the Maui County, looking for donations to benefit people here on Maui, on Lanai, and Molokai. And for those who can't afford a computer at home. This also will help for children, if there's needs for children who need some access, as well as seniors, which we mentioned earlier. And with this, not only can we help those who can get access, connect with family, learn, but there's also a need for some of those people who are in remote areas and need medical monitoring. So if you have a laptop, iPad, a computer, if it's a desktop computer that you're not using, and monitors, please call us at the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Our number is 244-0081. We welcome all donations. We will get them to the Broadband Hui, and they will use them for classes, and we're working with them now to bring classes. They've got classes planned on Lanai and Molokai in November, and we're looking at some Maui classes soon. So we'll keep you posted on the Chamber website when those are about to happen, but if you've got a donation now, please let us know. And if you're just tuning in, this is the Maui Chamber of Commerce Business Matters radio show, and it is my pleasure to welcome Joelle. I'm hoping I get this right, Joelle. Lambiotte de Lac. Is that correct?
Yep.
Oh, good. Did I do close enough? Say it for me.
It's Joelle Lambiotte du Lac. Just call me Joelle.
Joelle. Thank you, Joelle. Well, I have the last name Tumpapa, and everybody doesn't get that either.
Yeah.
But Joelle is the owner of Alohi Maui. Good morning, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here to talk about Alohi Maui this morning.
Well, we are excited to have you share Alohi Maui with our listening audience. Tell us about what got you started in this business, and tell us about the process and the products that you offer.
I'd be delighted. Well, it's actually a pretty long story, but I'll try to make it short. It starts with a little girl who arrived in Hawaii in the 70s. And I grew up on Oahu, and I lived in a very remote part of Oahu at the time. And I was very fortunate in that I was adopted by a Native Hawaiian woman named Kawaiau Kekuewa, who was born in Kona, and was very connected to the plants. And I didn't realize at the time, but she really initiated me. She took me up in the mountains. We picked maile together, and I was just young. I was only about 10 or 11. So I had no idea what she was really passing on. But she passed on something very special that connected me very deeply to Hawaii.
Yes.
And, I really... This whole process of coming out with these products that use the plants that are grown here in Hawaii really is a tribute to her and to the Hawaiian culture. I think that Hawaiian culture has many values that are so necessary for our world today, and that goes way beyond sort of beauty products, but that's really the roots of what I'm trying to do. And, as I see how the islands are changing and how tourism is growing, there must be other ways. We need to really diversify the economy and celebrate what we have here already. And so that was really the inspiration behind it. Then, there was my own interest in, products to make us feel better, to make us look better. And I really started to ask the question, how could I use the local plants here in Hawaii to create products? So that was really the base. The other thing, there are a couple other things that really, motivate me in what I do, is the disconnect that I was seeing between, claims that beauty products are making or products we use in the skin and then the ingredients they use or the processes they use to make them. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing was, we have such a fragile economy here on the island. When you live in an island, you realize that, everything really matters and community matters and how we do things and what we use matters. And, if you look at how much gets put into landfills, this just drives me crazy.
Yes.
And so I wanted to make sure that the products were, packaged in a way that was respectful to our island home and that could be really, even before recycled, they say that refill is the new recycle.
Right, absolutely.
That we can reuse things
yes.
and not just throw them away. And because recycling, let's be honest, here in the islands, what can you really recycle?
Right.
Little cardboard, little bit of plastic, aluminum, and glass. That's about it. The rest, unfortunately, goes in a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
So this was also another really big concern for me. So those are like the founding principles of what I do, and then I'd be happy to talk about the products themselves.
Well, yes, and we have time for that. But on that note, so tell me a little bit about your packaging.
So what I do is I wanted the bottles to be really beautiful. So that something that you would really like to have on your bathroom shelf, something very beautiful, but they're refillable.
Great.
So I offer refills for all my products, and the idea is the first time you buy the bottle, and obviously the closure is plastic because you can't really get away from that, but
yeah.
If we're going to use plastic, at least reuse it if you can.
Right.
It can be clean and reused.
Absolutely.
It's really not a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. So that's why I offer refills, and then everything can be recycled except for the pumps, the plastic pumps.
Uh-huh.
And I'm hoping to put into a place a system where if people can't recycle locally, which is the case in the islands, a lot of people on the mainland can actually recycle the pumps that I use. You can send them back, and I will send you a new one. So you kind of get a pump for life or a dropper for life, and then I'll make sure that they're taken care of properly.
That is tremendous. I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that. Well, let's talk about the products for a minute because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. And then if we have time, I want to learn more about the refillable process. But tell us a little bit about your products and where people can find you.
Yes, thank you. So, I'm online at alohimaui.com, but also there are a few local shops that carry my products. I just like, if I can, give them a shout-out.
Yes, please.
Brown Eyed Bella in Wailuku, and Jaws Country Store here in Haiku, Mana Foods, and also Emery Industries. They have a shop in Paia and one in Wailea. So those are my main outlets, and also online. What I found is people find me, sometimes I get orders from literally all over the world in the mainland. They will have, people who have picked up the product here, they like it, and then they order it online, which is great for me. And that's really from my retailers. And then there are a lot of local people that get it from the retailers. The products I have 3 products for the moment. It all started with my golden oil, which was an oil. I use the Hawaiian oils, the ones that are grown here, starting with our wonderful Maui-grown sunflower oil. I know many people have seen those gorgeous sunflowers growing in Maui. And a shout-out to the folks that are growing that, made in Maui Naturals, that are really trying to find another way to use our land and make products from things that are actually grown here. So another shout-out to those people. It takes a village. We all have to do this together. Yeah. So I started with that Maui's grown sunflower oil, and I actually mix it and infuse it with herbs and things that are grown in my own garden and from responsible organic growers here in Maui.
Uh-huh.
So things like turmeric, grow my own calendula, and and this is like it steeps into the product. I also use Kona coffee cherries that come from the Big Island. You know, when they make coffee, they take off the skin, and those Kona coffee cherries are full of antioxidants. And if I'm going to be technical, ferulic acid is something that's found in some very high-end products, but it's artificial. In this case, it comes from the Kona coffee cherries. So all of that steeps and all that goodness comes into the oil. And then with that oil, I mix it with some essential oils, some other oils that I use. Some of them are Hawaiian. I try to import as little as possible, but I do import a few ingredients that are clinically proven, so some high-end ingredients that are very concentrated and very powerful, like a vitamin C ester, which is very stable, that I use in the golden oil. Awesome. And then I mix it with some minerals. So it almost is like a combination of a nourishing oil and a makeup. It makes your skin look beautiful.
Joelle, let me stop you there, because we've literally got about a minute and a half, and I want to have you get to the other two products really quickly.
So the other two products, I have a hydrating product that's made from Maui rainwater.
Okay.
And it has aloe vera and hyaluronic acid in it. And the last is a deodorant called Pauhauna.
Yes, I remember you starting with that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I get very excited. I'm sorry, I get carried away.
No, I just want to make sure. I wanted to make sure that we got them in, and because. You have such lovely products, and I'm glad that we got to talk about it. I just didn't want to have to shut down, because when the music starts, I have to stop. But are you also on social media? Can people find you there?
You can, but I'm going to make a call out. I am terrible on social media. I need to find someone. So if anyone out there listening knows someone that wants to help me with social media, please.
Perfect. You've got a ready and willing client. So if you are a social media guru, you want to reach out to Joelle. Reach
out. And so yes, I am on social media, but it's pitiful. So this is really not my thing. So yeah, I'd be really grateful if there's someone out there that wants to help.
Okay, well...
And lastly, I do want to say I'm running a special, so 25% off from now until the beginning of the year.
Okay, so sorry, Joelle, we were at the end of time, but we want to thank you for joining us on the show. Look up Alohi Maui. Find out about her new special. That's all the time we have for Business Matters today, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes as always for a beautiful Maui day.